I got a great question the other day, and it was more of a technical question about the business end of things in terms of equipment and how to manage having equipment and buying equipment versus renting equipment and what to do and when's the right time and how you should do it, and if you're new in the business, should you buy new equipment, and all of those types of things. And I'm going to boil it down into just a few suggestions. I think first off, if you're new in the business, most people start a company and they have limited funds. Until you have a good quantity of work, it makes no sense to purchase. As much as renting a skid steer at $300 a day seems like a lot of money, it really isn't. Because until you have 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 jobs to support it, buying it doesn't make sense either. Because if you buy a piece of brand new equipment and you're going to spend $800, $900, $1,000 a month on it and use it 3 days a month, it doesn't make sense. But on the flip side, if you know that you have 20 jobs a month that it can be used on, and you look at over the long haul, it's a whole lot cheaper to own. What people don't realize when they own equipment, and I'm talking from my experience because all of my years in the pool business, I've changed my voice now. We rent everything now. We don't own any of that equipment now. But we don't need to because we're not doing a volume of business. If we're a volume builder, it makes sense to own. If you're doing more specialty things where you only need the equipment on occasion, it's way more cost effective to rent. And the primary reason is breakdown. Every time a piece of equipment breaks down, if you own it, it costs you thousands of dollars to repair. Now, it could be you taking it in and having it done, or it could be you working on it on the site and spending hours and hours and hours. So it's still going to be equivalent to thousands of dollars. And the reason being is you might have that guy that could be out making money, instead he's working on that equipment. So there's an opportunity loss cost of what he could be doing, and there's a cost of what he's doing. And that always adds up to thousands. As well as if you brought it in and let someone else do it, it's always going to come out of that shop for thousands of dollars. That's just sort of a rule of thumb. If you break that out over the course of the year, does it make sense? Does it not? I'm not sure. What I would recommend, new in business, if you have to have a piece of equipment, and here's the slippery slope. We get into business and we get this big ego. We puff up our chest and we go, I'm now in business. I'm a gorilla. I'm strong. I can do all this stuff. Look at me. I have trucks. Look at me. I have all of that stuff. If you let your ego get in the way and you realize, I'm the business owner and I gotta have all this stuff because I want to show how good I am, you lost already. Although I see guys doing that all the time. Puff up their chest and go, I gotta have all this stuff. Great. If you're going to do that, my recommendation, buy it used. Cash payment, save up that 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 grand. Bam, done. Buy one piece of equipment, doesn't matter if it's 10 years old. Use it till it falls apart, and then buy it again. And at some point, you build up your business big enough where there's enough volume of work that it makes sense to go buy a new piece of equipment. That's fine. But don't buy the piece of equipment just because, well, I'm a business owner and I'm supposed to have this, and pool guys are supposed to have this kind of stuff. No. Biggest mistake, I think, because now all you're doing is you're working to own that equipment. I'd rather you work for your lifestyle and have that equipment work for you. But if you go and buy it brand new, especially new in business, you're working for that. And by the time you pay it off, it's a used piece of equipment anyway. At some point, it'll make sense to buy a brand new piece of equipment and then use it for 10 years. But in most businesses, for what we do, unless you're using it every single day, it just doesn't make sense. Buy used equipment if you have to have it. More importantly, if you're only going to use it a few times a week or once a week or a few times a month, rent it. Far cheaper, far easier. Pay to have it delivered. Work that into the price versus owning all the stuff that you don't use. All that's ever doing is costing your business money because it costs so much to maintain. It's breaking down when it's not being used as well as it's breaking down while it's being used. So if it sits in a barn for a month at a time and you use it once, it broke down just as much as if it was used every couple days. It's just how equipment is. So, all said and done, new in business, I would never recommend you buy equipment, especially if your ego is in the way. If your ego's saying, I'm supposed to do this because I want to look really cool. Don't do it for that reason. Buy it when it's right. buy used equipment, cash, one payment, done. You know what? If you spent $5,000 on a piece of equipment and it broke down in 3 months, it's easy to get rid of and start over. Versus if you put $1,000 down and you have to pay for the rest of your life $1,000 for that piece of equipment, it's not worth it until the business can really support it. But if you're working to pay for that equipment, it's not worth working.